See what we got. Hey there, folks. How you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. Please bear with any background racket you might hear throughout this production. We're on location where life happens. Sometimes there's stuff going on out there that interferes with what we're trying to do in here. Also, this is Christmas Eve 2023. So for those of you looking for a little holiday catharsis, welcome to the show. We're going to be highlighting the Canik Mete MC9 pistol today. I've got a couple of others out here just for reference. All of these pistols have been cleared. We're going to keep them that way for this portion of the content. So the Canik Mete MC9 was a late arrival to the Micro 9 party, and while Canik took 3 years to iron out the wrinkles in the design, the end result dimensionally was a pistol that is longer, taller, wider, and heavier than many of the competition, with only a slight advantage in capacity over the status quo. So with a market that is literally flooded with pistols meeting the criteria of a Micro 9, we must ask ourselves the following questions. What makes a Micro 9 micro? Does the MC9 even meet these criteria? What advantages or disadvantages are there to the MC9 over the competition? And perhaps the most important question, does the Canik MC9 make sense for you? First, let's establish something of parameters. A Micro 9 pistol, for the purpose of this discussion, refers to a 9mm pistol with a magazine capacity of at least 10 rounds, weighing around 18 ounces, with a barrel around 3 inches long, with an overall height of around 4 inches and around 6 inches overall length. With those measurements in mind, to answer the first question in our list, let's take a look at the dimensions of a few of the most common options on the market today and see where the MC9 fits into that. Starting with one of the most common options that matches the specifications we set in the parameters almost perfectly is the Springfield Hellcat with an MSRP of $633. It has an 11+1 flush fit capacity, a barrel length of 3 inches, overall height of 4 inches, and overall length of 6 inches. Max width is just about 1 inch, and the empty weight of the Hellcat is 18.3 ounces. Moving on to the trend setter in this category is our SIG P365 with an MSRP of $599, a 10+1 capacity for the flush fit magazine. The barrel length here is 3.1 inches. The overall height is 4.3. The overall length on the P365 is 5.8 inches, and the max width here is also 1 inch. The empty weight is 17.8 ounces. Now, while the Hellcat and the P365 make up the more diminutive offerings in this category, the Taurus GX4 is not too far behind. With an MSRP of $399, it boasts an 11+1 flush fit capacity, a barrel length of 3.06 inches, an overall height of 4.4 inches, overall length of 6.05 inches, a max width of 1.08 inches, and an empty weight of 18.5 inches. And it does this at 2/3 the cost of either of the two aforementioned pistols. So moving on, you will notice with the remainder of the Micro 9 pistols on this list that we start to see an upward trend away from the micro aspect. Case in point would be the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus with its MSRP of $499. It has a 10+1 flush fit capacity, a barrel length of 3.1, an overall height of 4.6 inches, overall length of 6.1 inches, a max width of 1.1, and while it does have a relatively light empty weight of 17.9 ounces, it starts to feel larger in the hand than any of the pistols we've mentioned so far. Now, for those of you that are already banging away on your keyboards complaining about the "but it fits my man-sized hand" argument, hang in there a second. I'm not saying you're wrong. We'll get to that. I'm just making a point. Hear me out. Even larger than the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus is the Glock 43X, which shares a $499 MSRP. While the capacity of the flush fit magazine on the 43X is only 10.1, we will enter the caveat that there are a couple of really good aftermarket options for this model which push flush fit capacity to 15+1 rounds. The barrel length is 3.41 inches, overall height is 5.04, overall length is 6.5, with a max width of 1.1 inch and an empty weight of 18.7 ounces, making it the longest and tallest micro on the list so far. To put it in perspective, while not technically a micro, the Glock 26 that you see right here, the original baby Glock, shares the $499 MSRP of the 43X, as well as its 10 plus 1 round capacity, with a barrel length of 3.43 inches, overall height of 4.17, overall length of 6.5, with a girthy max width of 1.26 inches. It is the widest pistol on this list, but not by much. It has a 21.5 ounce empty weight with the flush fit mag installed, which pushes the empty weight of the Glock 26 higher than all the other micros on this list. Or does it? Moving on to the Kimber R7 Mako with its highest of the group $679 MSRP. The Mako has an 11 plus 1 capacity with a flush fit magazine. Even though the magazines are marked from the factory as 10 round, they do indeed hold 11 plus 1. We have covered that on the program here before ad nauseum. It has a barrel length of 3.37 inches, an overall height of 4.3 inches, overall length of 6.2 inches. Kimber lists the max width at 1 inch at the grip. I think they didn't mention the slide in the specs on purpose because it seems to be a little bit thicker. And the heaviest of the group, even heavier than the Glock 26, empty weight of 22 ounces with a flush fit magazine. A note worthy of discussion is while the Kimber R7 Mako is so far the largest micro on our list, it is also about the easiest for me to shoot. This brings us to the specs of the pistol we are here to talk about today, the Canik MC9, right here we have in front of it. The Canik MC9 has an MSRP of $439, a class-leading capacity of 12 plus 1 rounds with a flush fit magazine. The barrel length is 3.18 inches, overall height is 4.52 inches, overall length is 6.1, the max width is 1.12 inches, and the empty weight is 21.27 ounces. While there are many other pistols that could be considered for this group, we had to stop somewhere. The point of emphasizing the broad variance in industry-accepted terms of size for Micro 9s could be summed up with this loosely paraphrased Orwell quote, in that all micros are equal, but some are more equal than others. But going back to the second question on our original list, does the MC9 really meet the micro criteria? I'm going to say no. Based solely on its size, folks, this thing is as big, if not bigger than, a Glock 26. While the baby Glock was originally, circa 1995, touted to be the same size as the snub-nosed 38 Special it sent down the memory hole, there's another Orwell reference, many folks would agree that it feels chunky when carried as a pocket gun. It certainly is large when compared to some of the other offerings currently available. So moving on to question number 3, what advantages or disadvantages are there to the MC9 platform? Without getting too deep in the weeds concerning price-altering features like optics cuts and night sights and the virtues relative to those features, let's take a look at the bare-bones MSRPs. With a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $439, the MC9 is second only to a plain Jane Taurus GX4 in terms of budget friendliness. However, if you opted for a Toro model GX4, the Canik, which comes optic ready standard, would take the lead with the lowest MSRP. Add to that not only the factory holster that ships with the MC9, but major retailers like Academy Sports regularly offer promotional pricing on Canik firearms. This one was purchased for $342 out the door. The MC9 is likely one of the most price-conscious of the models we've mentioned here today. Even though the new Canik is a budget firearm, it is a far cry from making the cheap junk list of firearms. Notice I didn't call the new Yeet cannon out by name. All jokes and jabs aside, the MC9 proved itself to be easy to shoot and accurate, holding its own amongst its peers. However, more importantly, it has to date been 100% completely reliable. While my personal testing with it has been limited to about 250 rounds, my buddy Joe, yes, that Joe, also had a hand at it and reported complete reliability. That being said, the biggest takeaway from the break-in period is that it really didn't need a break-in period. Finally, with its mass relative to other micros, it was extremely easy for the average guy to make a few good hits with it. A common trait I have found to Micro 9 pistols is the bigger they are in general, the easier they are for me to shoot well. Your mileage may vary. One other really cool advantage to the MC9 platform is it will work with full-size Canik magazines. Here I'll show you. We have the Canik with the flush fit magazine installed. This is the 15-round magazine that ships with it, which gives you a nice full hand grip. This is a Canik factory 20-round magazine from their full-size pistol line. Alright, so it's cheap, reliable, and easy to shoot, while being compatible with the magazines from its full-size brothers. What's not to like? As we covered in our size comparison, it's not really a micro, is it? After all, it's bigger than the baby Glock you quit carrying because it was too big to carry. And while it does come with a holster, as we have covered before, if you want a different holster, your options might be more limited than, say, the P365 crowd. And while the MC9 is optic ready in its most basic form, you need an optic, or at least a good set of aftermarket sights, to replace the lackluster factory sights. It's a white dot on the front with a blacked out serrated rear. Not a bad combo, but on a defensive pistol, as I've mentioned time and time again, you need night sights. While I have spoken my negative opinion about red dots on pocket pistols before, I find it irrelevant here because the MC9 really isn't a good option for a pocket carry. So moving on to our last question, is the MC9 right for you? Well, if you are in the market for a good value on an average size subcompact 9mm handgun with a decent factory holster and optic mounting capability, you might have to try this one out for yourself. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. I will open the floor now to the comments section, as I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, not only on this video, but also the Canik MC9. So as always, Merry Christmas, folks. Take care, and God bless.